All right. I will call to order the Thursday, May 1st, 2025 meeting of the Bethlehem Revitalization and Improvement Authority. And Ms. Ryder, could you please call the roll?
Ms. Taggart,
Here.
Mr. Philippos,
Here.
Mr. Grayer.
Me? Do you mean
Oh,
me?
Yeah.
Courier.
Correct, yes.
I'm sorry, Courier. I'm so sorry.
Here on behalf of any
Ms.
of the-
Collins,
Okay.
Mr. Jobs.
Here.
Here.
All right. And I don't believe we have any public comment today, so I will move on to the approval of the minutes from the March 20th, 2025 meeting.
I'll make a motion that we approve the minutes.
I'll second that. All right. And any discussion on the motion for approval of the minutes?
I'll abstain just since I wasn't at the meeting.
Okay. All right. And then all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
None opposed and one abstention. Okay. And Mr. Philippos, Treasurer's Report.
Yeah, not much happened since last February, but we did receive interest of $2,403.48, and we did pay Baker Tilly $7,350. And that's it. So I make the motion that we accept the Treasurer's Report as it is in our packets.
I'll second. Okay. Any discussion on the motion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. That is 4 in favor, none opposed. Motion passes. So we'll move on to the main business of the day. Agenda item 6.1 is the extension request from Hotel Bethlehem. Included in your packets were a few different items, including the April 9th, 2025 letter from Mr. Haynes to the authority. And then we included, for reference, the original application from 2017, as well as the resolution from, I believe, 2019, and then the most recent extension resolution from 2022. So in May of 2022, you'll recall that the board did approve an extension of the CRIS authorization for a period of 3 years. So that is coming up for expiration, I believe, on May 19th of this month. And so Mr. Haynes had reached out with this request for a further extension of 2 years. That's probably enough by way of introduction. I can have Mr. Haynes, if you don't mind, maybe talking through your request, and we'll go from there.
Sure.
Thanks.
Is my microphone on?
Yes, it is.
Okay, good. I have with me Kelly Ronalds, who's our Director of Hotel Sales Operations and Guest Experience. And I'm Bruce Haynes, Managing Partner, Historic Hotel Bethlehem. I think I know all of you on one way or another. So this is pretty straightforward. As I stated in my letter, essentially, I asked for a 2-year extension. Quite frankly, it would be great if we could do another 3-year, just so we're not back here 2 years from now, in case same, because from a timing point of view, at the end of the day, we're looking for basically what I'm trying to find is the right steward to partner or replace me, basically, as an 80-year-old guy right now. I was 50-something when we started here in 1998. Donna Taggart goes back to those days.
Bruce.
You were a kid. Yeah, we were kids. We were kids, right? But at the end of the day, I got to be realistic and look for the kind of successor. And this is, I think I've told Laura this, is finding the successor that my priority would be find the successor entity or partner entity. It could be some of us that are current partners, maybe part of the successor entity. But at the end of the day, we're looking for that entity of somebody that's my age 25, 30 years ago, right? To take the hotel to the next level. I mean, I feel like we have reached the pinnacle of where my vision was 25 years ago. Let's put it that way. Getting America's #1 best historic hotel 4 years in a row, thanks to your votes, by the way, probably. And now getting #1 Main Street, getting the World Heritage, And it's really sets the stage for really the expansion project for the hotel because, we do really expect a major tourism bump here. And so to be able to have a bigger anchor on Main Street and in what I believe is was a very appropriate expansion project is really where I'd like to go with whoever my successor entity is. I'm not going to guarantee that I'm going to find that entity because the project has now ballooned from according to Spillman Farmer, with the cost escalations from a $37 million project to now roughly 54 if you use the cost escalation standards in the industry. So, that's not an easy person to find. And you can say, well, gee, we expanded for you 3 years ago. What have you been doing sitting on your hands, right? And what's to say we're going to be sitting here 2 or 3 years from now. And I can't guarantee you that I won't be here 2 or 3 years from now, sitting in front of you, asking for another extension. But I think the bottom line is extending the puts in play the opportunity to find the right successor that will do an expansion project, because the CRIS benefits are very strong. And obviously, they're even stronger for a new business entity, particularly if it's a business entity, Laura, right, from outside the state, I believe.
Correct.
Is even. So, so to that point is we have engaged an investment banker and as well as a hotel broker. The broker is the former president that both Kelly and I know, former president of Historic Hotels of America from the National Trust. So his contacts are with other historic hotel owners across the country. And that's the kind of person I'm looking for. And I think, as I said, I described to Laura, is that this is a tough deal because this is kind of like my baby. It's like I'm trying to find the husband for my daughter. I mean, we had a person come here 3 years ago, offered us our asking price and would do the project, but I just didn't like the entity. It just, we need to find somebody that, that really understands the unique character of our community, the unique character of our hotel, the fact that we're not a cookie cutter hotel. We're truly an iconic trophy asset, as they call it. And so I'm looking for that trophy person to be the steward of this great asset. And by having the CRIS in place, it allows me to talk to those people that really do have the wherewithal and capital to not only acquire the hotel or a portion of the hotel, but also to do the project. It's not our entity that's going to do the project. It's not Christmas City Hotel, which is the current owner entity. Half of them are even older than I am, right? So this is where we have taken the hotel is where our vision was. The next step is we have provided the roadmap for the future vision and the next steward of the asset. And so by having the CRIS extension in place allows me to talk about that and get people excited about it. If I don't have it in place, the chances of finding someone to do the project without the CRIS in place is diminished significantly. So I'm asking you to allow me to provide them the CRIS benefit as I discuss it with them for the next. And again, I would ask for 3 years, even though I asked for 2 as I thought about it. 2 years can go quick. Since the last 3 years, a couple things happened. Number one, interest rates skyrocketed 2 years ago, or a little more than that. And before that, just right after we got this CRIS last time, I think, Wind Creek announced their major expansion with a significant increase in capacity of their banquet space. And this project had banquet space taking us from 19,000 to over 40,000 square feet, putting in a new ballroom that's twice the size of our existing ballroom, in addition to adding 85 rooms. So when that was announced, that anybody I was talking to at that point in time pretty much went away until they could see what's going to happen and how it's going to sort out because of the excess capacity of meeting space in the market and rooms. So, you know, back then we were operating at 75%. Now we're operating at 60% capacity. So the capacity is there to take on the new World Heritage visitors. But I think the opportunity for that to put more rooms and more meeting space adjacent to the UNESCO project would be advantageous for the city and increase the anchor on Main Street. So to that end, I open the floor for any questions or anything I didn't cover.
Thank you, Mr. Haynes. I think I'll turn first to any members of the board who have questions for Mr. Haynes. Or
I think, Bruce, you described a little bit, like we haven't seen you in 3 years, you know, and I guess I'm trying to get a better understanding of exactly what has happened, what you've been doing to find that successor. You mentioned the president of the historic hotels. Like, is that, you know, how does that all work, and how active has that been?
Well, it was active in the first year till the interest rates went up, and then pretty much we backed off because between that and the Wind Creek expansion, people just weren't ready to. Right now, the biggest thing there's a lot of capital out there for people, but with the interest rates the way they are, they're just not pulling the trigger. So we're not on the market. We just have out there. We're tactically looking for the right person, the right entity to partner with us or do their thing. So we really only restarted that effort at the beginning of this year. So we're now restarting, but for a year and a half is effectively a dead issue. And of course, Trump is the biggest thing right now he's trying to do is get the interest rates down, and that's going to unclog a lot of capital. It's also going to, you know, that's sitting on the sidelines. So until that happens, that's why I'm asking for maybe 3 years. It could be 6 months to a year before that happens. But so we selectively look at potential candidates. I had someone in town last weekend. You know, and obviously we talked to him about the expansion project, and I basically say I'm looking primarily for somebody that wants to do the expansion project. But you know, we are talking to people who don't have any interest in that as well, as long as they're. But I would prefer to be doing something because I think it's the right thing for the city to expand the hotel. And so we're not out there in the open market with a listing. We are selectively looking for family office type people through the investment banker, other historic hotel owners through my broker. But it's a quiet and it's a one-on-one thing. And so, you know, if somebody goes beyond a certain interest level, we get them here. Obviously, we show them everything. But it's been a difficult time. The whole hotel industry has been pretty flat for the last 2 years in terms of sales, purchases, partnerships, whatever, and especially construction as well. So, I mean, there's a lot of people, cookie cutter hotels go up, you know, but this is a unique asset and it's a unique buyer. Their unique buyer, successor, partner. That's still unclear. That it's not going to be something it's not going to be something we're going to say the hotel's for sale and come on in and get it. This is a discussion kind of thing, one-on-one with people.
Thank you.
So I could say there wasn't much activity. Shortly, once the interest rates went up, everything died. Nobody was interested in doing anything. And now that they know the big commitment from the administration is to get the interest rates down, that opens the door in my mind going forward. As soon as that happens, I feel like a logjam is going to open up, and especially in terms of hotel acquisition, construction, project kind of stuff.
Thank you.
I have a question for Laura. I know we have a little bit of increment left for future developers. How much is that? And I guess my overall concern, certainly, Bruce, I appreciate what you've done and applaud you for trying to find the perfect partner. But as a board, I struggle with not having a lot of increment. And if there are potential future projects that come to us and we don't have increment to use because we're saving this for you. So that's where I struggle with how long do we do that? And certainly I think this is a unique situation since 2017. That's a long time. And there isn't any other developer, I think, that's gotten the CRIS designation that's not utilized it in some way, shape, or form. So
your concern is that I'm holding up the opportunity for you to do somebody else?
potentially,
Potential.
I think that's my question to Laura is what other projects are on the horizon that may be on the horizon, and do we have the appropriate increment to be able to help those developers who do want to move forward?
So I did update our running spreadsheet, after our last meeting. So because as you know, at the last two meetings, we agreed to support the certification of 0.1515 acres, and then at the immediately past meeting, 0.33. So with those two actions, we now have 1.15 acres uncommitted of our 129.151 total that were allowed by the Commonwealth. So that 1.15, and that's without, I'm not counting the 1.07 that is, currently under extension for the Hotel Bethlehem.
And as
So,
far as
pipeline,
projects or
yeah.
developments
Pipeline.
on the horizon, what are you seeing? Is there folks that are
So we have
looking for it at this point or in discussions?
So I had talked at our past two meetings openly about one project, the Goodman project on the south side. That's a project in active conversation, and I think they are interested in coming in, formally to have a discussion with the board and seek approval for their project. It's a small amount; it's 0.17 and 0.09 acres for those. So still keeps us within what we have available. As a general matter, I think we've seen over the past 6 months more projects that are outside of the original 2013 designated area, but that are looking to CRIS as a potential incentive to support their projects. It's tough because CRIS is not an incentive for residential development, and so much of development in the city has been residential. But we are seeing, some new good infill projects that could benefit from the CRIS. There's, in my regular conversations and Mr. Ziller's regular conversations, I would say that there's probably 2 to 3 projects I can think of that I wouldn't name as certainly coming in for sure, but that have expressed interest in learning a little bit more about it. So, I do think there are projects out there that could benefit, but currently there's not a demand that would take us over the 1.15 that we have available. But I hope that answers your question.
I'm not the only one that's been sitting out there, I don't think, since 17. I don't know about the Perkins, the property over by Perkins. That certainly, I thought it was CRIS property.
Well, so of the original application, so projects that have been approved since 2013, there were a few developers, and each of the developers has used CRIS in some way. There are individual parcels for each of those developers. Certainly Wind Creek has done a great project, but also has a number of parcels that are, sitting and not being used. But those that are in the original application, the process to decertify is one that the developers have a lot of control over. So we don't necessarily, as an authority, have much ability to pull back those acres. But in terms of newly designated projects where we have, consideration, whether it's a new project coming in, like the Wilbur expansion or the folks from High, or the hotel, like the situations where we actually could make some moves and make some acreage available. I think this is it's a unique situation. The other projects that have been new, that were not part of the 2013 application, that the board has approved, those have moved forward. I think the first Wilbur was one example. Wind Creek, that was actually a parcel that was not originally designated, but this board approved for a new project.
Mark, I'm struggling with the same thing. I love the project. I would love to see it. I agree. It would be great for Bethlehem. I don't know. It just feels like a long time before we would see anything again. And I think I'd feel better with something less than.
I would agree. I think, again, I like your project, but I think we've got to consider other opportunities. And while we might not have them now,
Right.
to go down 2 years, I don't want to lose a good opportunity because we've extended this for 2 years and we missed that. And now there's still nothing going on in 2 years. So I would say 1 year, let's come back and revisit it, see where you're at, see what we have on the horizon. And, I'm willing to keep extending it as long as there is another I'm willing to consider, but I would love to see something happen sooner or later. And as you stated, a new buyer may or may not want to do that project. And ultimately, at some point, every person wants the perfect partner, and sometimes you might have to. I'm not saying that you have to, I applaud your thought process, but at some point you may have to say, okay, this isn't the absolute perfect partner, but 90% of this is what I wanted, and move forward.
I understand that, but I would like that. I could make that happen a lot easier if I'm not looking for that partner to do this project, right? So, I think the issue is, does the city really want this project done or not? Because, I could make the issue happen sooner if I'm not trying to talk somebody into doing a project that's $54 million, right? So, I would hope that you guys would want to see this project to give me the opportunity to put that in play. Whether you want me to come back in a year and say how I'm doing, that's fine. I understand. I get that. I would hope in a year, maybe the 50 acres of Martin Tower might become available and this becomes sort of a moot point in the year or 2 years, right? So all I'm saying is, if you really want to see the project go, you got to hopefully give me the time. I'm telling you, I am committed to try to find somebody to make it work. I'm not guaranteeing I can make that happen. And I may decide to take the easy way out and not do that, but I would like to have that opportunity so that's in front of them and know that they have it in place and that it's something that they can we can factor into the equation. So I would hope this is a good enough project that you would feel that you're willing to roll the dice a little longer with me. That's all. Together.
Other questions from the board?
Whether that's 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, just come back. How are we doing? Make sure I'm not just sitting on my hands and not doing anything. I can assure you, I've been working on this. I can assure you that, when Wind Creek did their project, it was like a shot in the gut, right? They're doing something basically exactly what we were doing, except bigger. So it just, anybody looking at that's going, wow, I got to let that sink in. And so now they're open, right? And we're functioning, they're functioning. They can now see the results of that. and the impact of that on us. And so the longer we go here, another year or so, most of them are saying, show me another year and then I'll talk to you, right? But, so this, I have to keep dragging it out. So it's not my intent to just keep dragging this out. I don't want to, hopefully I'm not here when I'm 83, 3 years from now, still asking for an extension.
Yeah.
I mean, I hope I'm here to be able to come for the extension, but I'm hoping you guys will just stick with me and, give me the opportunity to try to make that happen. And without the CRIZ, that opportunity kind of goes away because nobody's going to want to go through the political ramifications of trying to get something like this approved. So they're going to want to see that it's done in place, and as long as they comply with whatever the conditions are, that's a given. I mean, I can't talk to anybody without the CRIZ. I can't talk to anybody and say, hey, by the way, you might be able to get a CRIZ. I think we can maybe get you a CRIZ, but that's a non-starter. So at that point, I'm only talking to somebody about becoming the suitor of the existing property with our expansion that we did across the street and up the street with the conference center up there. So
I just have a couple questions. Looking back at the 2017 application, there's a lot in there. I wasn't around at the time, so I tried to study it just so I really understood the full scope of the project. Do you, based on changes since 2017 in the market, in Bethlehem and the Lehigh Valley, and whatever it may be, is there anything that you think is less viable or more viable? Is your analysis of the strength of the project any different than it was in 2017?
Well, I guess that's a really good question. I think that I think if anything, from the feedback I've gotten in discussions I am having with people, the additional meeting space scares them a little bit with the amount that's over there. Even though we are different entities, there's like 25% of the people like historic kind of stuff. 25% want to be at a casino. 50% are like in the middle, right? So at the end of the day, though, maybe the amount of meeting space that I have embedded in there, it does throw some people.
Mm-hmm.
They would rather see more rooms. But from the perspective of, especially with the World Heritage designation, rooms now becomes maybe more of a priority for them than the banquet space. And not that they wouldn't want to do some of the banquet space, but I had 2 floors of banquet space there. One is a ballroom that's twice the size of our current ballroom, and then there's another like exhibit space. And my gut feel is the exhibit space probably today, they're going to want to make guest rooms. So instead of having 75 or 85 guest rooms, there probably would be more like 125, doubling what we currently have with the 125, doubling the amount of guest rooms and reducing the amount of square footage of meeting space. But from the exterior perspective, that's an internal within the building kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
From an exterior, I don't see any change in the dimensional amount of space, including the garage space, which is on the 450 car garage space.
Well, and I wonder, I think our approvals are, based on the project as presented, but understanding that it hasn't gone through land development yet, right? And so I wonder if, as you're talking with potential buyers, maybe you're having these discussions about, we like the CRIZ project, but maybe not every aspect of it. Is there flexibility to make changes, based on the market or the buyer's needs or their vision as well?
Actually, I've been advertising that what's inside the building isn't, I assumed, quite frankly, that, what the space is inside, whether it's meeting space or whether it's guest rooms, I didn't think that was an issue as far as the CRIZ went, that we were really tied to this exact component inside. I've actually been describing to them that the CRIZ had flexibility in that regard. From the exterior point of view, here's the square footage and here's what it looks like. But, inside, been describing it, that they could probably, I assume that there was latitude there for
I
a
think,
little bit.
yeah, I do think the language in the resolution was that, that you would receive land development approval for the project, for a project substantially similar to the project. as
Substantially
described.
similar.
So I think, yes, maybe changing some meeting space to rooms would probably be substantially.
It's still guest
similar.
rooms or meeting
Yeah.
space,
Yeah.
really.
Right.
Just-
But I mean, I think, if there are, my point still remains, I think if there are buyers who might want to make substantial changes, but still look for a CRIS
Mhm.
benefit, I think there's,
Okay.
value in having maybe even more regular discussions, to your point, whether it's a year as opposed to 3, because
Right.
that could actually be helpful for you.
Right.
And, if you have a buyer who might be interested in, doing the project, but not exactly as intended.
Certainly, if I have someone like that, I'd be calling you or texting you.
Wait
Uh,
for a meeting.
If that's the only issue, that they can we swing around the components here?
Sure.
Now, if in fact they want to reduce the footprint or something,
Right.
I'm pretty well telling them you're not going to be able to increase the footprint, because I said, we need to keep it, kind of consistent with the historic character. We don't want it should be smaller than the main building, and, and all that. But yeah, certainly I assumed if I had somebody that was looking for some change with the internal square footage, that wouldn't be an issue. But I guess I should call you and at least make you aware of that's we got somebody that's maybe looking at that. Is that a problem?
Mhm.
And maybe come back to this board if that is a concern.
And I think in previous approvals, you had a general sense of how you wanted to structure the financing. So, or I could be wrong about that if you want to clarify, but with the cost escalation, do you have a number in mind of like how much financing you'd actually intend to do through the authority, and like what the breakdown?
Well,
would
I think
be?
they would probably be looking at, again, about a 60% debt finance, 40% equity is pretty much the standard industry practice. So that's generally what they'd be looking at. Obviously, if they can squeeze that up to 2/3, 1/3, so that'd be on 55 million. We're talking, debt financing of 30 some million,
Mhm.
ballpark.
Laura, question for you.
Yeah.
How's the city? Do they still view this project favorably?
Yeah, I do think that, if the project can proceed as presented, or substantially similar to as presented, I think, the analysis of the overall benefits to the city and the downtown remain the same. I think what not from the city's perspective, but from the authority's perspective, I think the questions you raise are valid about, whether there's any opportunity cost to continuing to extend. But I think, the project itself, has a lot of value. And you point out, that World Heritage is a new piece of the puzzle, and a lot of interest in the downtown. Number 1 designated Main Street. Obviously, we're really excited about that as well. I think I do wonder if you anticipate any changes in perspective from the HARB, for example, or other folks about how construction and a project of this magnitude might impact the World Heritage area and the buffer zone. It's, I think a question, not that the city necessarily has, but that I think has been raised elsewhere. So that would be a question that I have, but not necessarily one that makes me feel differently about the value of the project.
Actually, this project was envisioned when we got put on the tentative list for World Heritage in 2017. That was the genesis of the idea of putting this together, knowing someday, hopefully, we would truly become a national tourist destination, requiring more rooms and more companies coming here and seeing the meeting space and deciding to bring their conferences and conventions here. So the fact that all of that got validated this past year is very exciting, needless to say, for us, and I think for the city, hopefully as well.
And I think from the city perspective, there's some other considerations as well. Again, before my time, but there's also a component of the plan that involves like the road development in the back there as well.
The what?
The road, like the
York
Old
Road.
York
Oh
Road
yeah,
development.
we have it all laid out.
Yeah.
We have it all laid out on paper. We were going to do actually do a lease agreement,
Mhm.
but the mayor wanted to put that on hold until such time as we had somebody. That could be a problem, but I'm assuming we have it basically so that there would be an exit out of the new garage that would not put everybody on Main Street, but have a second exit that allows people to get out to go over to Old York Road and then meet up where the tavern is on Union Boulevard at the light there. So that we laid out, and it's all laid out. You have the documents, Laura, for all that to happen, and we were actually going to put it in place on a conditional basis, but the mayor wanted to delay that, so that has not been done, but we have everything laid out to make that happen and demonstrate to the person that there is a plan
Mhm.
in place, just not executed.
Yeah. So there's certainly a lot of moving parts from the city perspective that, it would be helpful to have, at the appropriate time, some clarity, and, we can, work with the city resources, appropriately to help, whether it's get the road development or, potentially mitigate any impacts on the World Heritage area. And, those are just, the city considerations for down the road. But,
I know right
the
now
further
that-
down the road, the harder it is to plan for and predict and coordinate with other projects and things for the downtown, which I'm sure you can appreciate. So, probably I'm hearing from the board and also from the city perspective, like as it lingers, it's it leaves things lingering that.
Well, it's up to you guys, how you want me to proceed, trying to find somebody that can do the project or not do the project, really is what it boils down to. I mean, and hopefully you think it's a good enough project for the city, all of you, and that you'll trust me to try to find somebody, but I can't guarantee at the end of the day I'm going to, because it's a big project and it's a lot of money. And
On that note, I'm willing to extend it for 1 year and come back to revisit again to see where we're at and what's going on and take a look at it at that point.
Yeah, I would definitely support that motion.
Okay. How about I had not I had not drafted a full resolution, as I mentioned. Yeah.
Attorney Andrews has said that if
Yeah.
you want, you can certainly approve it subject to the solicitor drafting the appropriate resolution to be presented to the board.
Okay.
So how
How
would
do
you
we
like
do that?
perhaps
Still make the
Is that-
resolution.
is that-
Mr. Jobs to make the motion? Sure.
Make the motion and then authorize the solicitor to prepare the appropriate resolution.
So my recommendation is to grant a 1-year extension and authorize the solicitor to make the appropriate resolution.
And I'll second that.
Okay. And then discussion on that motion as presented. Okay.
You good?
Yeah.
All right. So all in favor of Mr. Jobs' motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? None. Passes 4-0. All right. Congratulations, Mr. Haynes.
okay,
We
thank
wish you well, and
Thank you.
hopefully you can
Seriously.
find someone
Yeah.
that
Hopefully I don't have to come back here in a year,
Right.
but if I'll look forward to coming back and bringing you up to date in a year. And I appreciate your, bearing with me on this project with the extension, and happy to come back from Florida and meet with you guys next year. Thank you.
All right.
Thanks.
Thanks.
Okay, appreciate it.
All right. Does anyone have any new business? Mr. Corrier, anything for the solicitor's
Nothing new,
report?
but I will fill in about the meeting.
Okay.
Resolution to you.
Thank you. And I actually do not have anything for the chairperson's report either. So our next meeting is scheduled for May 15th. At this time, I do not have any agenda items, but I will, we'll certainly let you know if we're going to have it or not.
All right.
And motion to adjourn.
I'll make that motion.
All right.
Second.
This meeting is adjourned.
Thank
Nice to
you.
meet all you guys.
Michael, good seeing you.
Yeah, thank you.
Guys.